People versus Limon. She's present on the stand, still subject to cross by Mr. Smith. Her attorney, Mr. Terry, is present. We do have all 12 plus 4 in the box. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Mr. Smith, whenever you're ready.
Ms. Limon, after Robert died, why did you continue to use the burner phone to contact Jonathan?
That's the phone that we had used, and after speaking with Jonathan, he had advised me that to how important it was to keep our affair concealed, mentioning the dangers that concealing an affair right now would be, and so we just kept using that. I actually used my landline as well to speak with him, I believe.
So when you were calling Jonathan after your husband had died, you had 3 phones at your disposal at your home.
Yes.
Okay. 1 you had tucked away in your bedroom.
Yes, I kept it in my room.
The other phone, your known phone to everyone else that you kept on your person.
Yes.
And then your landline.
Yes.
Where's the landline located at within the house?
In the kitchen?
Is it a cordless phone?
Yes.
So to call Jonathan on this burner phone, you would, even though you had a phone on you, your regular cell phone, you would go to your bedroom, go to where it was within the drawer, take it out, and call Jonathan. Is that what you did?
Yes, that's what I did.
Were you ever worried that Jason and Kelly would find out about Jonathan coming over to your home after Robert passed away?
Yes, I didn't want them to know that he was around at that time. I don't think.
What's the reason for that?
I didn't want them to, I guess, read into our affair. I didn't want them to be critical of Jonathan being around that time.
When were you going to tell them that Jonathan was around?
I'm not sure. Eventually.
Based on your testimony about your lifestyle, what's the big deal about an affair?
Well, I went outside of our agreements, I guess, outside of our group. Jonathan he had nothing to do with our friends or our group or any of our people, our lifestyle at all, actually.
It's your testimony that your husband was having an affair with Kelly. Okay. So what would be the big deal to Kelly if you were having an affair as well, if according to your testimony she's sleeping with your husband?
Well, there were allowances that we had as a group, as her husband and my husband and her and I, and then she slept with Robert separately when her husband wasn't around, and they had somewhat of an emotional relationship, more than friendship. And Kelly also, when she had learned of Jonathan, she wasn't understanding. She was critical, and so I didn't feel that she was a friend that wanted to listen to where anything I wanted to share with her. And she liked things the way that she liked things. So I just went with it.
Silver Lakes is a small community, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Everybody knows everybody's business, do they not?
Yes, everybody's.
So this concept that somehow you were concerned that other people would find out about it, everybody already knew about your lifestyle in Silver Lakes, did they not?
Well, they weren't in the bedroom with us.
Okay.
We didn't invite all of Silver Lakes over.
Your interview with Detective Meyer, November 13, 2014. This is page 36, line 23. You said, "We would come in groups, you know, and I'd know that's probably how we were viewed by many." And later on, page 37, line 7, I would say, and that's you, "Let's give them something to talk about, you know." This is how you went around in Silver Lakes. You gave them something to talk about. That's your own words. Isn't that what you did?
Everybody talked anyways. So, I guess we were living the life we were living, and I guess that they didn't really know. They weren't there. Nobody was there, so they can assume whatever they wanted to assume. But
This is a perception that you put out there to your community, is it not?
we were wild, loud, coming in to events sometimes. And people assumed, some assumed that about us, I guess. Rumors would spread, but no one knew for sure. It's not like that was something that we made known to people.
Okay. Did you ever try to dispel those rumors of what type of behavior your group was involved in?
Yes,
When?
if it would ever come up, or no, we don't.
Well, these are your own words. You said, I would say, let's give them something to talk about. That's you doing it so others would talk about you.
Detective Meyer had asked me about that, and I did not want to reveal our lifestyle, so I let him know that, rumor spread. He had said that that's what he had heard. He had brought that to my attention, so I had let him know that I was concealing that end of our lifestyle as well to him.
So just to summarize what you've testified to, everybody was sleeping with everybody else within your group. Somehow an affair was a big deal.
No. Everybody wasn't sleeping with everybody.
Okay. So would an affair have been a big deal?
It was outside of the group, so I didn't have permission to go astray from our group friends.
So now it's your testimony that you had to be given permission to sleep around.
Yes,
Who had to give you that permission?
Robert.
So now it's your testimony that your husband had to give you permission to go out and have an affair.
Yes,
Okay. So when did you ask for Robert's permission for Jonathan Hearn and that affair?
I didn't, because there were no benefits for Robert. So he wouldn't have given me permission.
Okay. So you did not, and you, in this case, you wouldn't listen to your husband. Is that what you're saying?
I did not listen to my husband in this case, no.
So, but now you want to say you had to be given permission. He controlled you.
He was my husband. But he did not control me. It's a lifestyle that I don't expect people to understand, because at in this place and time, I wish that I never allowed those kind of doors to be open in our marriage. So to explain them to you is a little difficult for me.
So then at this time, not only was your husband sleeping with your best friend, you were drinking heavily, and all the other things I've listed before, now it's your testimony that he controls you.
I didn't say that he controls me, no. But the lifestyle ended up controlling us. Not expecting you to understand that.
Well, your testimony is that everybody else decides everything that you do. Is that your testimony now?
No.
Okay, Jonathan Hearn controlled you. That was your testimony yesterday.
No, Jonathan Hearn was controlling.
Okay. Now your husband controls you. That's your testimony today.
No, my husband was my husband.
Okay. Do you make decisions on your own at any point?
Yes, I sure do. Apparently many bad ones.
All right. I'm going to start with what is marked as People's 73. First page. Testified to by Jonathan Hearn from September 8, 2014. It talks about, I'm going to pray about writing Jason's letter today. Did you know that he was going to write a letter to Jason Burnington?
He had mentioned writing a letter. I didn't know what he was going to write, and I felt like he was wise, that he was good, that it was for a good reason for him to write to Jason. And I never read or knew what the letter said.
This is page 2, same exhibit. September 9, 2014 at 7:19 p.m., you actually texted him that that was not their P.O. box. Remember doing that?
Yes.
So why did you text that?
Because Jonathan told me what P.O. box that Jason had given him, and it wasn't their correct P.O. box.
Okay. Page 3. September 23rd, 2014. OMG, the kids and I just saw Jason at the market while we were getting ice cream, and Robbie brought you up. What did you put after that?
Like some kind of a face.
It's fair to say that that's probably a frown.
It's like a, yeah.
So you weren't happy with that, were you?
No, I didn't want Jason to know that Jonathan was hanging around us.
This is the last page of People 73. Kind of got to start from the bottom to the top. At the bottom, 9/20/2014, 12:51. What a day. Is that an okay way of saying that? With the little face afterwards? I can see
Yes, what a day.
Okay. Is that a positive statement?
It doesn't appear to be positive.
And then the top, on top of that, Kelly just texted me asking whose truck was here last night.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Whose truck was there the night before?
Apparently it was Jonathan's truck.
Okay. Why were you concerned when Kelly asked you whose truck was that?
I didn't want her to know it was Jonathan's.
She was wondering if it was Dale's. Why didn't you just say it was Dale's?
Because it wasn't Dale's.
Okay.
Dale wasn't around.
Well, it would have been a little more convenient if she was asking if it was Dale and you're like, yeah, it was Dale. Why didn't you do that?
Because Dale hadn't been around.
Now, at the time of your husband's murder, and after, what changes did you go through? Like, how did you change your life?
Everything changed.
Okay. How about drinking? What'd you do with the drinking?
I stopped drinking for a time period.
Okay. How long of a time period?
About 5 months.
Okay. What other changes did you go through?
Everything changed in my life.
Did you begin to go to church regularly, or how did church change?
I had been attending church prior to losing Robert.
Okay. Did it become more regular, or it stayed the same?
I went to church on Sundays.
What about, we've heard through the wiretaps a lot about religion. How did your religious outlook change?
It at that point had been, it had changed a lot. It became very much what I was clinging to.
Staying with religion, did you then also begin to kind of talk to your kids about God?
Yes, I had prior to losing Rob. They were going to church with me as well, but yes, I spoke to them.
Did it increase the amount of conversations you had about God to your children?
Yes, probably.
Now, prior to Robert's death, you discussed with Jonathan about a future, about being together, about raising the kids, about religion. Isn't it true that all those changes you talked about are the exact changes that you did after Robert's death?
No.
Okay. What changes that you had talked about with Jonathan prior to Robert's death did you not do?
Okay, I'm sorry. Repeat the first part.
Your discussions with Jonathan prior to Robert's death was about a future. You talked about raising the kids. You talked about being together. You talked about religion. Which of those changes did you not do after Robert died?
None of those things.
So all of the changes that you had discussed with Jonathan, including being together, were fulfilled after Robert died.
Not fulfilled, but they either continued or they weren't fulfilled. I wouldn't use that. They seem to happen.
Moving on to the wiretaps, there was a mention of a Tiffany. Who is Tiffany?
She was the wife of one of Robert's friends that he would golf with. So they were friends. They were acquaintances, people we knew in Silver Lakes.
Now, you heard the conversation that happened after you spoke to Tiffany, correct? In the wiretaps that we listened to.
Oh, between Jonathan and I, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What did Tiffany tell you?
She had said that that two people were going to be arrested. That's what she had heard. That she had heard some things about an arrest that was going to take place.
Did she tell you that someone wanted this to happen to Robert?
No, I don't believe so. I don't remember exactly.
Did you recall her telling you that there were wiretaps on phones?
No, I don't remember that.
Do you recall hearing yourself discuss that there might be wiretaps on phones in the call to Jonathan?
Possibly. I don't remember that specific part, but
Now, were you
maybe.
aware of where they got the information, that being Tiffany and her husband, Aaron?
From another police officer that they knew.
So did you take that information to be true, since they purportedly received it from a police officer?
I didn't know. Yes, I did, but I didn't really know what to think. I was shocked to hear that from them, because at that point I didn't have any. I hadn't spoken to Detective Meyer on anything like that. I didn't know what to think.
During the wiretaps that we listened to, started from the 7th of November till the 18th. Did you think your phones were being tapped at any point?
At certain points, yes, but didn't know for sure.
Okay. What changes did you make because you thought someone might be listening?
Changes. I'm not sure. Changes. What do you mean by changes?
Okay, like reality TV. Somebody's filming you, you act different. What changes did you make when you thought somebody was listening?
I was concerned. I was stressed. I felt scared.
Did you ever discuss with Jonathan what to say during those phone calls?
Yes.
Well, during this time, I think you've testified that Jonathan would say things that would be weird, that would make you kind of think. What were those things that he did or said?
There were different moments that I would find things off. In the beginning, I can't remember exactly how it went, but he had just mentioned, the dangers of having had our affair prior to this happening, and he had let me know how people react and how investigations work, and spoke to me a lot about it. Always wanted to know how the investigation was going to keep him. He kept very close touch with me. So there were times where, in the beginning, where things that he had brought up felt weird, like why I questioned him. And then at the end, certain things he would say, like that could be a picture of him, and I was just freaked out all the way around. I didn't know what to think. Or
when did you know you were being investigated?
Well, at the very end.
At the very end. So when they came to arrest you?
Well, that was a for sure moment I knew that what I was so concerned was they following or phone taps or anything like that here they had questions for me.
So at this point, you were concerned, you were stressed, you were scared, and if all it was an affair, all you had to do was call the phone, pick up the phone, call and tell Detective Meyer, and then you're done if you had nothing to do with this.
I wish that I would have done things a whole lot different.
Did you want your husband's murder to be solved?
Yes, I did.
In the calls contacts that we listened to with Detective Meyer, when did you provide information that would be truthful, that would assist?
Well, I was protecting my image, Jonathan, our life prior to losing Robert, and I didn't think or want how I was living with Jonathan or anything that could place any bad thoughts. I didn't want to put my affair into a murder investigation, and I never wanted to believe that Jonathan was the one that did this. Ever.
When did you believe Jonathan killed your husband?
When he admitted it.
When would that be?
In January.
Your Honor, if I can approach, I had some items marked.
Equals 101 and 101A, mark next one.
Your Honor, I would request to play what is marked as Equals 101. They are excerpts from the wiretaps that have been previously played in court from November 9th, 2014.
Any objections, Mr. Terry?
Well, the only objections I would have are with regards to I don't know what excerpts they are, and if they're being taken out of context.
Mr. Smith, can you show a copy to Mr. Terry, please? Thank you. Record reflect the copy was shown to Mr. Terry. Mr. Terry, you have to review that. Any objection? Other than
not
previously
this time.
stated. All right, thank you. Deputy admitted. Deputy Barron will hand out copies of the transcript to the jury. All right, the record reflects, I'll make the panel have a copy, Mr. Smith. Please.
Ms. Limon, I'm going to play 3 excerpts from 3 separate calls. The first, November 9th, 2014, at 10:12, at 10:15, and then at 10:37. Starting with 10:12.
I just got a text message from Detective Meyer and asked me to call him. So I'm going to. Okay. And I'll pray. Okay. Okay, I just wanted you to be praying. I'm going to pray and call him.
God, please help us. God, please help us to be wise. Help Sabrina to have the right words. Please help everything to be. God, please help us to live for you.
I'll play in the call at 10:15.
So there's no information at all.
Honestly, I don't have anything, and I wish I did, but I think we're kind of getting into a dead end, and I was hoping that by re-releasing that news video, that'll spark something with somebody, and they may have seen something, and it'll give me some secret witness tips, or they'll either call me or something like that.
Moving on to page 2, 10:37 that same morning.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to walk out to church right now. Everything's fine. I'll talk to you after church when I see you. Is that okay?
Yeah. Very fun.
Yeah, everything's fine. You guys said, he just said that they don't have anything, and that they're re-releasing the same video because the other one won't be back for like 2 months.
Reflect 101 was played for the jury, Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Why in this did you call Jonathan Hearn or speak to Jonathan Hearn to let him know that Detective Meyer had called you and asked you to call him?
Jonathan had asked me to always be in touch with him in regards to, let him know what was going on. And at this point, I did not, I'm sorry.
Just why you called Jonathan, or he called you, as to the
Because
first portion.
He had always wanted me to let him know what was going on.
Okay. And you wanted him to be praying. Why is that?
I did not want our affair to be exposed.
His response to you was, help Sabrina to have the right words. When you spoke to Detective Meyer, did you have that in mind?
I guess so.
Moving on to the call with Detective Meyer at 10:15. So you state there's no information at all. What are you talking about?
I'm talking about, I just didn't want him to have any information in regards to our affair, and that was all.
Okay. To which Detective Meyer responded, honestly, I don't have anything. I wish I did, but I think we're kind of getting into a dead end, and I was hoping by re-releasing the video, somebody would give a secret witness tip. Based on what you just read, what is the context of that wiretap? What are you talking about with Detective Meyer?
Your Honor, at this point, I'm going to object to speculation. There's no context with this portion, this excerpt, Your Honor.
Right. Mr. Smith, perhaps you could refresh your recollection as to what was going on with that conversation with Meyer at the time.
Were you talking to Detective Meyer about the investigation of your husband's murder?
Yes.
Okay. So when you said there's no information at all, you were talking about your husband's murder, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So when Detective Meyer said, I don't have anything, did you take that to be understood as I don't have anything involving your husband's murder?
Well, I was asking what information, if there was any.
Let's move on. All right. Second page.
Your Honor, I'm going to suggest the counsel cut off for my witness before she could answer.
I apologize. Ms.
By all
Limon.
means, please.
I think I answered.
Okay. Moving on to the next page. You were walking on your way to church, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Going by yourself or with the kids?
I always had the kids.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Okay. I was just asking because it says I'm, or as in I, it doesn't say we. So that's why I was asking.
Okay. Unless they were at a friend's.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Moving on to your second portion. You say, everything's fine. I guess that he just said that, yeah, they don't have anything. And they're re-releasing the same video because the other one won't be back for months. What are you talking about?
I was telling him what Detective Meyer had told me.
When you say everything's fine, that they don't have anything, You are talking about your husband's murder investigation, are you not?
I'm talking about our affair.
Where in any of this context is there anything about your affair?
I was concerned about our affair. That's what I was referring to Jonathan at this time.
Where is that? You said everything's fine, and then you immediately talk about they have no evidence in a murder investigation.
I was just talking about Detective Meyer not asking me anything in regards to Jonathan and I and our affair. I did not think that Jonathan was the man that murdered my husband at that time.
What would you think the appropriate response would be when you are the spouse of a murdered person when a detective tells you, we got nothing in an investigation?
The response that you don't have all my responses at these times. I was like a yo-yo at that time.
Were you paranoid?
I was a lot of things. I was very messed up at that time in my life.
Your Honor, if I could approach, have an item that's been marked.
Please.
People's 102 and 102A marked next to murder.
Your Honor, I would request People's 102 be moved into evidence at this time. It is an excerpt that has already been played on November 11, 2014 at 22:16 hours.
Get a chance to look at that, Mr. Terry?
Yes.
The objection?
No.
All right. You'll be admitted. Deputy Bear, and we'll hand out a copy of the transfer. All right, all members of the panel have a copy. Mr. Smith, when you're ready.
So this is an internet service provider. This is my phone number. Obviously. Yeah. It's one number that almost gave me a heart attack.
Why did the 661 number give you a heart attack? Or almost give you a heart attack?
Because at that time, Jonathan had left, I believe, my house, and it was late, and he had thought that there was somebody following him, and then a 661 number called late. It was late at night. I didn't know who it was.
Do you know what area code that is?
Yeah, that's this area code here.
Kern County?
Yes, I guess.
Or the investigation of your husband this murder was taking place?
Yes.
In this case, Mr. Hearn used a voice over internet phone. Did you ever try to call different phones to speak with Jonathan so that law enforcement would not be listening?
I did not know he had an internet phone. No.
Well, did you ever call other phones, try other ways to ensure that you weren't being listened to?
I had called his station that he was at work. I had called his work number before.
Now, did you read, or were you given scripture to read by Jonathan around this time period?
Yes.
Do you recall reading Psalms 51?
Yes. At the time.
Do you recall on this same date from what we just played earlier, you said, I've been reading Psalms 51.
Okay.
Do you recall the content of Psalms 51?
No.
Okay. Do you recall reading in there, verse 1, have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion, blot out my transgressions, wash away all my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. Do you recall reading that?
I remember reading Psalms, but I don't necessarily remember that specific.
Based on the wiretap, you had been reading Psalms 51.
Okay, I may have.
Moving
Yes.
on to verse 14. Deliver me from the guilt of bloodshed, O God, you who are my God, my Savior, and my tongue will sing of your righteousness. Now, when you read that verse, what did you think?
What my memory recalls, I remember Jonathan reading that Psalms 51 to me, and I don't think I was following along right. Like I think I was distracted.
Your Honor, if I may approach, have another item marked.
Yes.
Totals 103 and 103A, marked next to mine.
Ms. Limon, were you worried around this time that Kern County was investigating you?
I was worried that our affair would be found out, yes, but wasn't sure.
Were you worried that BNSF was investigating you?
I wasn't sure what was going on, actually. If they were investigating me or what was going on.
Okay. Were you worried that BNSF would have a private investigation of you?
A private investigation? I don't think I don't know.
Around this time frame, you were asking for a fair settlement from BNSF, were you not?
I didn't ask.
Your Honor, misstates the evidence.
Mr. Flatten testified that you asked for a fair settlement from BNSF around this time.
My-
Vegas at the time.
Oh, you can answer.
My concern was our health insurance, our vision and dental. That was taken away right away, put back on, and going to be completely deleted after 90 days. And that was my concern, was the health insurance. As far as any kind of settlement, I was not looking for some fair settlement. What's a fair settlement? I wouldn't know. I didn't ask.
Your Honor, I would request to play the initial portion of People's 103. The CD was testified to, however, we did not play the wiretaps, so I'd ask Ms. Limon to see if she recognizes the voices.
You seen a copy of that, Mr. Chair?
It's the one that he just handed me. I believe so, I guess.
Proceed.
If I may approach the witness, give her the
Yes.
transcript.
Counsel. Oh, okay, that's why. Okay, thank you.
Equals 104 and 104A, mark next in order.
Hold on, counsel, I'm a little, that's all right. We had 103 and 103A, and did we do anything with that yet?
No.
Okay, and we just marked 104 and 104A. Are you approaching with 104?
I am.
It's late in the afternoon, give me a break.
Ms. Limon, I'm going to play about the initial 15 seconds to see if you recognize the voices contained in the audio.
Well, with that, so it's just something like, just a couple things that, the detective said, and just something, all it is like, just, when he did say, he was like, so, you have a lot of people, you have people coming over. I just want to be careful, because I don't want to I want to be respectful, and I don't.
You recognize the voices contained within People's 104.
Yes.
Is that you
Yes.
speaking to Jonathan Hearn?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would request People's 104 be moved into evidence at this time. That is an excerpt from a wiretap that the CD was testified to, but has not been authenticated till this point.
Any objection, Mr. Chair?
Submit.
It'd be admitted. Deputy Barron will hand out a transcript of 104A. Mr. Smith, the record reflected all members of the panel have a copy. Proceed.
Well, with that, so just something like, just a couple things that, the detective said, and just something, all it is like, just, when he did say, he was like, so, you have a lot of people, you have people coming over. I just want to be careful because I don't want to I want to be respectful, and I don't know if you know what I mean. And I was going to tell you even the other night, we don't know who that was, but I know that there was a truck. I saw a truck parked prior to where if another vehicle was to pull up on that side, they would have had to park in front of that truck. So that's maybe why if the pool was in front of like the house next to it, you know? Maybe not. Okay, I'm not disregarding anything. Like, yeah, you're wrong. Don't even trip, you know, because it should be underneath, you know. And like, I'm just saying, like, I don't know, but I do think too. I mean, as far as they told me she could railroad not involved, but that's a whole other thing too. That's a whole other thing.
They have their own private investigation going too.
Yeah, I mean, he just said they're giving it to the detectives, Hearn County. But
They're giving it to the detectives, right?
yeah, like Hearn County, like the Detective Randall Myers on the case. So they're just working along with Randall Myers.
Right, that's what we talked about.
Yeah, so they're saying that there is no private detective as far as the railroad goes on the case.
No, not as far as the homicide goes. As far we'll talk about that.
Okay, so I'm just thinking like, you know, I don't want it to be.
I do know what you mean, and as far as the homicide goes, of course, there's only Randall Meyer, and that's what I had mentioned the other day. No, ENSF is only they're in an accessory role, but it's Hearn County in charge of it. Whereas there's other elements of everything that's going on that there's going to be other involvement to private investigations too.
Right.
And that's a whole different deal.
So I feel like I should be being watched. So, late night.
One 104, take for the jury, Mr. Smith, please.
Why were you discussing the possibility of a private investigation done by BNSF with Mr. Hearn?
Let's see. I felt like the detectives I didn't know who could be looking into, who could be uncovering our Jonathan and I's affair, or any other information in our private life. I guess, I don't know.
When you say they have their own private investigation, what are you talking about?
Well, they had been part of the investigation too, I believe. But I didn't speak with them. I don't think I did.
Moving on to page 2, line 23 of the transcript from 104. So I feel like I could be being watched. What was your concern as it relates to either BNSF or Kern County?
My concern was Jonathan and I, our affair.
Well, why would you be concerned if BNSF was watching and found out about your affair?
I didn't want our affair to be found out.
Okay. Well, what would you be concerned about if Kern County found out about your affair?
Jonathan had let me know how detectives work, how things go, and how bad that an affair looks as this happened to Robert.
So the end, you talk about late nights. Are you talking about Jonathan Hearn coming late?
I'm assuming that's what I'm talking about. It looks like it. But that probably wouldn't be a good idea to have him around late at night, I guess.
You talk about on page 1, we should be on our knees. Why should you be on your knees?
To not be exposed for our affair.
Does that make sense to you?
Not at this time, much sense. Nothing makes sense to me at this time. I wish I would have gone about it differently, but I didn't.
I'm going to move on to November 17th, 2014. Detective Meyer called you and gave you a description. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you get the sense from him that the description that he was giving you was of the person that killed your husband or the suspect?
The suspect, he had mentioned, I was confused by what was happening all of a sudden.
Did you get the sense that this was the suspect of the person who killed your husband?
Yes, that's what Detective Meyer had told me.
Okay. Do you recall being given the description that included the person was white,
Yes.
male,
Yes.
skinny,
Yes, I believe so.
subject name John or like a Jon? Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Person possibly knew Rob. Remember that?
Yes.
And drove a motorcycle.
Yes.
You remember all that description?
Yes.
Okay. Whose names did you then subsequently give?
I had given Detective Meyer 2 names of Robert's co-workers by the name of John.
Okay. John Justice.
Yes.
Okay. That would be one of Rob's best friends.
Friends, co-workers.
Right. He golfed with Rob pretty regularly.
He
didn't
golfed. He wasn't best friends with Rob.
Okay. You also, in your conversation to Jonathan, said that you think that Detective Meyer said something about a beef with Rob. Remember that?
Okay, yes, something along those lines.
Okay. Now, you also gave the name of John Simon. We now know it's John Seaman. Why did you give that name?
That was another John.
Okay. So after you were done giving the name of John Justice and John Seaman, you then called Jonathan Hearn, did you not?
Yes, I let him know what Detective Meyer had told me.
Okay. So after you were done giving the description, you called a white, male, skinny, who knew Rob, with Jon in his name, who owned a motorcycle, who had a beef with Rob. That's who you called.
I did not feel that Jonathan Hearn was who had killed Robert.
Okay. Which one of those descriptions that I've listed does not perfectly match Jonathan Hearn?
That could be, I don't know what, I didn't know what was happening at that point. I didn't know what to think.
Detective Meyer asked you, can you think of any direction we should be going on this? This is after the description. You responded no.
I was definitely convinced that continuing to conceal Jonathan Hearn as my lover was where my mind was at that time.
Okay. When you made this call to Jonathan Hearn after the description was provided by Detective Meyer, why did you call his station phone and ask him to call you back?
Because I didn't know if we were being listened to or what was happening at that time.
So you had the description that perfectly matched Jonathan Hearn, and you tried to ensure that you were not being listened to.
It was a vague description. I was confused at that time. I wasn't sure what was going on. And I was definitely still, at this point, concealing Jonathan, my lover, not wanting to allow Jonathan the thought truly to process in my head that he was capable of killing Robert.
Okay. Well, when you told Jonathan a little bit later, he said something along the lines of, "Someone is trying to frame us." You remember that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Why didn't you say, "Why are they trying to frame us"? Why wouldn't you say they're trying to frame you?
I was very distraught and scared, and I didn't know what was going on. He had definitely put in my mind that this could be what could happen, is being framed.
Now, moving into the next day, the day of your arrest, you knew prior to your arrest that there was going to be an upcoming court case involving you, did you not?
No, I did not. Not.
I'm going to check the date at the time.
November 18th.
Did I know there was going to be an upcoming court case?
Right. Prior to your arrest, you knew there was going to be an upcoming court case involving you.
I knew that we could possibly be brought in as questioning and why I had not been honest.
Showing you what's been previously marked as People's 83. Testified to by Detective Meyer as being a multimedia message that he sent to you November 18th.
Okay.
You received the message, "Good morning, Sabrina. Sorry I was up late last night. I took this video from the video I recovered last night. It's a lot better in person. Does this person look familiar to you? This is our suspect." Now, after you read that text message, what did you think?
I was confused as to what was going on at that time.
Okay. Why were you not excited?
Because I didn't know what was actually going on. I had been feeling that things were totally off, that Detective Meyer wasn't being honest about things that were going on in the investigation, and I wasn't sure what to think, because was odd. How it was all came together, like the way that it did. So it felt weird.
Let me show you now what's been moved into evidence. This is the video that was provided to you. Sorry, it's small. It was for a phone. Did you recognize the person in that video when it was sent to you?
No, I was very confused by who that was.
Okay. You've now seen evidence that that's video from the Pilot gas station on the way back on 58 to 395, correct?
Yes.
Okay. In your wiretaps, you were heard talking about Four Corners. So you were aware of where this gas station was, were you not?
Yes, I had an idea of where that was. Somewhere.
And you were looking at that with the knowledge that that's the suspect of the person that killed your husband.
Yes.
Okay. Now, were you trying to figure out who it was?
I was confused of how it was all going down. It was off. It was weird. And
Well, what's weird about finding a suspect?
well, because it was said John, and I didn't, and then I was paranoid about our affair, about Jonathan. Where did John come from? Who is this person? Who's John? I didn't understand what was going on at all.
But when you looked at that video, you did understand that based on what Detective Meyer was telling you, that's likely the person that killed your husband.
I didn't know what Detective Meyer was doing at that point.
Okay. Well, he gave you a description. He gave you what the vehicle did, leaving the scene at the time. He told you where the vehicle went. He told you multiple times this is the suspect. What's...
Jonathan had me convinced that Detective Meyer was more that he may not be being honest, that he was more of that he. I didn't know what to believe. I didn't understand what was going on.
You knew
That
that was
time.
Jonathan Hearn when you watched the video, did you not?
I couldn't tell who that was. I was trying to put it all together, figure it out.
Okay. So it's your testimony that you did not know who that was when you looked at that video.
I did not know who that was.
Your Honor, if I could approach, have an item mark.
Yes.
Both 105 and 105A marked next in order. Both 106 and 106A marked next in order.
Which one are you showing, Mr. Chair and Counsel?
Oh, I apologize. It is 106.
106.
Your Honor, I would request to play excerpts from November 18, 2014. They've been previously played to the jury in the wiretaps. There is an excerpt from the call at 0600 and a later call at 10:42 2 a.m.
Mr. Terry, any objection?
If I could have a moment, Your Honor, I'd
You
like to
bet.
make sure that it's actually taken in context. It's a little while to find it before these. Okay, thank you. Thank you, counsel. I apologize.
That's all right. Any objections, Mr. Terry? 106.
Submitted.
Thank you. It'd be the Deputy Mayor and the handheld transfer.
And I apologize. I will want to lodge one small objection. It does kind of start mid-sentence, but I'll submit.
All right. Another overrule. It does look like everybody has a copy, Mr. Smith, please.
Ms. Limon, I'm going to begin with the 0600
Okay.
call.
That's the rule, you know, it's like, I just feel like, wow, you know, how, I just felt the purpose and I felt the cause. I felt that, I just, it did, through the pain, it made sense, you know, like,
You know, it does make sense to me, and I do feel the presence of God, and I do feel humbled, I do feel small, I do feel like I'm on my knees, and I am looking to Him, but, you know, it's
to go to the clear case and our families and,
yeah,
I mean, here it was like, you know, it's
it's not in our control, you
I
know.
know, I just,
I'm sorry, what were you saying?
no, I just felt like, wow, you are a man of God, and that's what God wants, that's the path that He chose for the kids and I, you know, like, and I really just, once I've been able to start feeling again, like I felt that way, you know.
Ms. Limon, I'm just going to start with lines 9 and 11. Now, you say to go through a court case. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't, but I see to go through.
Okay. Want me to play it again?
No, you don't have to.
Okay. Did you say to go through a court case?
Well, apparently, I guess I said something along those lines.
So at this moment, November 18, 2014, you knew you were looking at a court case.
I didn't know what I was looking at.
Okay. I'll play now November 18, 2014 at 10:42.
Hello.
Hey, is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry for bothering you.
Oh no. Hey, it has ever been so. Today it is so. You are not a bother.
I just wanted to talk to you again. I was just watching that video.
Mm-hmm.
There was another take a video of you.
What's that?
I said, do you think that's just, I'm tripping. I have like such a bad headache too.
One oh six A was played for the jury.
Ms. Limon, I'm going to show you again the text message that we just went over from Detective Meyer. Good morning, Sabrina. Sorry I was up late last night. I took this video from a video I recovered last night. It's a lot better in person. Does this look familiar to you? And this is our suspect.
Right.
Okay. You reviewed that video.
Yes.
You knew it was Jonathan Hearn.
I did not know it was Jonathan Hearn at that moment. I was confused to how it was all playing out.
And draw your attention to page 2, starting with line 7. You say to Jonathan Hearn, I just wanted to talk to you again. I was just watching that video. Is that the video that I just played for you?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Line 9, they would rather take a video of you.
I'm not sure what I was referring to there.
Okay, well, it seems that you're referring to a video.
Right?
Okay, and the you're speaking with Jonathan Hearn. Is that correct?
Right.
Based on your own words, you recognized the suspect was Jonathan Hearn.
Jonathan had told me that possibly they could take a video of him somewhere else and show it to me, telling me that it was him.
Okay. Well, it was your testimony a little bit ago that you said you did not recognize the person in the video.
I did not recognize the person in the video.
Your words at the time, you did.
I was questioning his prior, what he had told me prior to what's in this recording.
Take our afternoon recess, 15 minutes. Remember not to form or express any opinion or discuss the case. We'll get back in 15.
Limon, she's present in court with Mr. Terry. She's still on the stand, subject to cross by Mr. Smith. Who's here on behalf of the people? We do have all 12 plus 4 in the box. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Record reflect that once again on Friday afternoon, the court has handed the jury each one Jolly Rancher candy. My profound thanks for your time and effort and your patience. And by the way, I give you the color that comes out of the box. It's not that. I don't choose the flavor for you. It's just the next one up is placed on the seat. All right. Mr. Smith, if you'd like to continue.
Okay. Ms. Limon, after your husband died, you did not want to tell law enforcement about Jonathan, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The killer of your husband did not want you to tell law enforcement about him, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you and the killer of your husband had the exact same desire in respect to law enforcement, correct?
I did not know that Jonathan Hearn was the killer.
Okay. Did you have the exact same desire in respect to law enforcement as Jonathan Hearn did?
No.
Okay. You did not want law enforcement to find out about Jonathan Hearn.
At that time, no, I did not.
Let me show you what's been marked as People 62. Starts out on top. Unbelievable how you make me feel. Did you give this card to Jonathan?
Yes.
Unforgettable. Every moment with you.
That's what the card reads.
Okay. You picked this out for Jonathan, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Unlimited. The possibilities for our life together.
That's what it says.
And you sent this card to the man who killed your husband, did you not?
I gave it to him before losing Robert, yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Terry, read the rest.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Limon, well, I'll ask you. There's been a lot of stuff put up, obviously, that embarrasses you, right?
Absolutely.
Things that you never really wanted to come out about your life or Rob's life.
Beyond that,
These are things that you were afraid of that would ultimately come to life, that would reflect on you and reflect on your husband. Is that right?
yes, and beyond.
Now, you were shown photographs from Beef O'Brady's. You remember those?
Yes, I do.
Do you know if those were all the photographs that were taken that night?
No, I'm sure there were more.
Mr. Smith showed you some photographs, and in the photographs that he showed you, it never showed you and your husband having a good time together that night. Is that right? You remember that?
That what was that? I'm sorry.
Yes. You remember Mr. Smith asking you if there were any photographs of the ones that he showed you from Beef O'Brady's that showed you and your husband Rob having a good time that night?
Yes, I remember him saying that,
Okay.
asking that.
Defense Exhibit B, mark next in order.
Exhibit V is in Victor.
Mr. Limon, I'm going to approach, have you take a look at this exhibit. Do you recognize the front page of that document?
Do I recognize it?
Well, let me rephrase this. Did you have a Facebook account?
Yes.
And how long did you have your Facebook account, if you recall?
I don't remember.
Okay. At some point, did you stop posting things to Facebook on that account?
Yes.
Do you remember when that was?
After losing Robert, I didn't post pictures or
Post it all on that account that you recall.
after I was arrested the first time, I deleted my Facebook account.
And why did you delete your account?
There was I didn't want exposure. I didn't want media being able to get pictures off of my Facebook account of my family.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to go to the next page of the document. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
I know it's hard to see. Do you recognize that photograph? It's on what's been delineated as page 104.
Yes.
Okay. Is that one of the pictures you posted?
I don't remember posting this picture, but
Is that a picture of your husband, you, and your 2 kids?
yes, it is.
Okay. And what's the date of that particular posting, if you can tell? Okay. Maybe I can assist you.
Yeah, please. I don't see a date, but I do see title, family vacation now.
Uploaded.
Oh.
See that?
7/7/2014.
Okay. So that was approximately a little more than a month, about 40 days before Rob was killed by Jonathan Hearn. Is that right?
Yes.
I want to do this a little bit differently. If you could go through each one of those photos and see if you recognize those photos and what they depict. Go to the next photograph at page 106. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And you recognize that photo?
Yes, I do.
And what does that photo depict?
It's a picture of Robert and I.
Do you remember where that photo was taken?
Looks like the beach.
Go to the next page in this document, be page 120. You see that photo?
Yes, I do.
And then what is that a photo of?
Of Leanna and I.
Does that accurately depict at approximately June of 2014, this photograph of your daughter and you?
Yes.
Turning your attention to page 122 and 123, which is the next document.
Yes.
What is that a photo of?
There's nothing on 123.
Well, 122.
122. Sorry. That's Robbie and I.
And the second page, 123, does that list a date when that was uploaded to Facebook?
Oh, okay. June of 2014. June
Okay. Does that appear to also be at the beach?
14th. Yes.
I have to go to the next document, next photograph at page 196. You recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And what is that a photograph of?
Robert and I.
And do you see what date that document was uploaded into Facebook?
August. What? August of 2013.
Okay. Ask you to turn to the next document, which is at page 207. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that a photograph of you and your husband?
Yes.
And what date is that uploaded?
August of 2013.
And do you recall where that photograph was taken?
Yeah.
And where was that?
We're at the beach.
Does that accurately depict you and your husband on that day?
Yes.
Directing your attention to page 260, the next photograph. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that?
That's Rob and the kids.
And what's the date that that particular document is uploaded into Facebook?
This was in July
Of what year?
2013.
Ask you to turn to the next photograph at page 217.
This is July of 2013.
And who is that a photograph of?
Nancy and Dax and Robert and I at the river.
And is that, and Nancy and Dax, are they friends of yours and Robert's?
Yes.
And were they a part of your adult-only group when
Yes.
you did your vacations?
Yes. This was just the four of us that time.
Asking you to turn to page 268, which is the next photograph. Well, let me ask you this with regards to the last photograph. Did that accurately depict you and your friends on that day with your husband?
Yes.
Okay. Turning your attention to the next photograph at 268, do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
Who is depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And turning to, it's Robert and you and who else?
Oh.
Is there a third person depicted in that?
Oh, yes.
And do you recognize that person?
Yes.
Who is that?
That's our friend Dusty.
And turning to page 269, which is stapled to that one, does it indicate what the date was that this was uploaded into Facebook?
This was in June of 2013, I believe. Yeah.
Turning your attention to the next photograph on page 274. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And can you, looking at page 275, does that indicate when that photograph was uploaded?
This was June of 2013.
And do you recall where you and Robert were when that photo was taken?
We were at the beach.
And I'll direct your attention to the next photograph, at page 284. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And turning to page 285, can you tell me when that was uploaded into Facebook?
April
Of what year?
Of 2013.
Directing your attention, and well, does that accurately depict you a photograph of you and your husband at that time?
Yes.
Directing your attention to page 292, the next photograph. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Rob and I.
And does that accurately depict you and your husband?
Yes.
And what is the date that that was uploaded into Facebook?
November of 2013.
Directing your attention to the next photograph, page 296. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
Do you recognize where that photograph was taken?
Yes.
And where was it?
These were at, we took family pictures. This was at a stable.
And what date was that uploaded into Facebook?
November of 2013.
And does that accurately depict that photo accurately depict you and your husband at that time?
Yes.
Directing your attention to page 302, the next document.
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and Robbie.
And do you recall when that photograph was taken?
March 2013.
You need a moment?
It's okay.
All right. And does that accurately depict your son and your husband at that time?
Yes.
And do you recall where that photograph was taken?
It was in Wrightwood, the snowboarding trip.
I'm sorry, in a what trip?
Snowboarding?
Oh, okay. It's a ski resort?
Yes.
Okay. Directing your attention to page 303, the next photograph.
Same time.
And what does the photograph of page 303 depict?
Robbie and Robert.
And that was from the same trip?
Yes.
Directing your attention to what's page 307, the next photograph.
Yes.
Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes.
And who's pictured in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And when was this photograph taken?
At a friend's birthday party.
And does it accurately depict you and your husband on or about October 21st of 2012?
Yes.
Turning your attention to the next photograph, page 310. Do you recognize who's depicted in that photograph?
Yes.
And who is that?
Robert and I.
And do you remember where this photograph was taken?
On our boat.
And do you remember where you were at that time?
At the lake.
Which lake?
Silver Lakes.
Were there two lakes in Silver Lakes, by the way?
Yes.
Okay. And those were ones that you were within minutes of your home?
Yes.
And did you take your boat out on those lakes regularly?
All the time.
And when was this photograph uploaded into Facebook?
October of 2012.
October, or is that September?
Oh. It says September.
Okay. So 9/30 of 2012?
Oh. Yes.
Okay. A little difficulty seeing?
Oh. Yes.
Okay. Directing your attention to page 311.
Oh, I see now, yes.
The next photograph. Do you recognize who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And do you recognize where you are when that photograph was taken?
We're in Silver Lakes.
And is that your boat in the background behind you?
Actually, no. We were, this trip, we were, I believe, at Temple Bar.
And Temple Bar is where?
Lake Mead.
Okay. And when was this photograph uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
Directing your attention to the next photograph at page 312. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And who is depicted in that photograph?
That's our family, Robert and I and the kids.
And when was that uploaded into Facebook?
That was November of 2012.
And does that accurately depict your photograph of you and your husband and your children?
Yes, it does.
Turning your attention to the next one at page 314. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes, I do.
And who is depicted in that photograph?
Robert, and that was our family picture, Robert and I and the kids.
And when was that uploaded into Facebook?
Same time, November 2012.
Turning your attention to page 316, the next photograph. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes,
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And turning to page 317, does that indicate what date that was uploaded into Facebook?
That was in November of 2012.
Directing your attention to page 318, the next photograph. You recognize that photograph?
Yes,
And who's depicted in that photograph?
that's our family picture, Robert and I and the kids.
And what date was that uploaded into Facebook?
Same time, November 2012.
Directing your attention to page 319. You recognize who's depicted in that photograph?
The kids and Robert and I.
Do you, was that also part of the family photographs you were taking?
Yeah, it was a photo shoot that we done.
And what's the date that was uploaded to Facebook?
Same, the same time, November.
November of 2012.
Yes,
I direct your attention to page 344, the next photograph. Do you recognize that photograph?
yep,
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And do you recognize where that photograph was taken?
Yes,
And where was it?
Newport Beach.
And does that accurately depict a photograph of you and your husband at
Yes.
that date and time?
Yes,
And what date was that uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
Direct your attention to the next photograph at page 349. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yes,
And who is depicted in that photograph?
Robert and I.
And what was the date that it was uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012
And where's that photograph taken?
at Newport Beach.
And does that accurately depict you and your husband at that time in Newport?
Yes,
Directing your attention to the next photograph, page 370. You recognize that photograph?
yes,
Who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and the kids.
Do you recognize where that photo was taken?
Yes,
And where was it taken?
it was a museum in Los Angeles.
And was this on a family vacation or outing?
Yes,
And does that accurately depict Robert and the kids on at or about that time?
yes,
And what date was that uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
Directing your attention to page 379, the next page with photograph. Do you recognize who's depicted in that photograph?
Yes,
And who is that?
Robert and I.
And was that at the same museum?
Yes, I believe so.
And what's the date that was uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
Does that accurately depict you and your husband on that date and time?
Yes,
Directing your attention to the next photograph at page 389. Do you recognize who's depicted in that photograph?
yes,
Who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm at the table too.
Okay. And do you recall where that photograph was taken?
At a restaurant.
And does that accurately depict you and Robert at that time?
Yes,
And what's the date that was uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
Directing your attention to the next document, page 393. Do you recognize that photograph?
Yep.
And who's depicted in that photograph?
Robert and the kids and my brother-in-law and my nephews and
my sister, and myself.
And do you recall what the event was that you were all together at that time?
It's a summer fun.
And what was the date and time that that was uploaded into Facebook?
August of 2012.
And does that accurately depict your family and you and your husband on that date and time?
Yes.
All of these photos include time periods where you were involved with your affair with Jonathan Hearn. Is that right?
Yes.
Including right up until the month before your husband was murdered by Jonathan Hearn, right?
Yes.
All right, ask for permission to publish.
Smith,
No objection.
proceed, counsel.
Actually, I can move it and they take evidence, ask them to evidence and publish to the jury.
Grant.
Thank you. It's kind of difficult to see. A little bit dark. And the first photograph I showed you with you and the kids,
Yes.
and that's at the beach.
Yes, I think so.
Showing you page 106. That's from July 7th of 2014 that it was uploaded into Facebook. Is that right?
Objection asked and answered.
You're going to go through all the pictures, Mr. Terry?
Yes, because
I assume you're going to make the same objection on each picture, Mr. Smith?
As to the date, repeated, yes.
is that
Objection over.
thing, was that the around the time that that photo was taken? Was in July of 2014?
Yes.
Is that your husband and you?
Yes.
Looks like he's having a good time. Were you guys having a good time that day?
Yes.
Page 120. Is that you and your daughter, Leanne?
Yes.
Page 122. Is that you and your son?
Yes.
That's you at the beach.
Yes.
Page 196. That's you and Rob,
Yes.
and that's August of 2013.
Yes.
You guys having a good time that day?
Yes. It's a great day.
Page 207. Is that you and Rob also at the beach?
Yes.
Is that Rob taking a selfie of you two?
Yes, it looks like it.
Okay. Page 216. Is that Rob and the kids in his golf cart?
Yes.
And is that outside your house at Silver Lakes?
Yes.
Page 217. That's you, Nancy, Dax, and Rob.
Yep.
And do you recall where you were on that one?
We're at the river.
Page 268. That's you, Rob, and who was the third person friend of yours?
Dusty.
Were you guys having a good time then?
Yes.
Page 274. That's you and Rob.
Yes.
And is that when you were at one of the times you were at the beach?
Yes.
Page 284. Do you recall where you and Rob were when this photo was taken?
Yes.
Where were you?
We were at a wedding in Sedona, Arizona.
And that was a photo from April 28th of 2013 or thereabouts?
Yes.
You guys have a good time at the wedding?
Yes.
Page 292. Is that a photograph of you and Rob?
Yes.
And was this part of a photo shoot the two of you did together?
Yes.
Was that at the stables that you mentioned?
Yeah, it was around that area.
Page 296. That's you and Rob?
Yes.
And that was also at that stables you mentioned?
Yes.
Page 302. Is that Rob and Robbie?
Yes.
And this was when you were doing the snowboarding trip?
Yes.
Page 303. Just another photograph of Rob and Robbie on that trip.
Yes.
Did you guys do a lot of things together as a family?
Yes.
Showing you what's been marked, or page 307 of Exhibit B. Is that the photograph of you and Rob?
Yeah.
And was that at a friend's birthday party?
Yes.
Page 310. Is that you and Rob?
Yes.
And is that on at Silver Lakes or is that on the river?
That was at Silver Lakes on our boat.
That was approximately September of 2012. Is that right?
That's what it says.
Showing you page 311. Is that you and Rob?
Yes.
And is that your boat in the background?
No, that's our friend's boat.
Okay. And I think you said this was out at...
Temple Bar.
Okay.
Like Mead.
Showing you page 312. Was that some of the family photos that you did with Rob
Yes.
and the kids?
Yes.
.314. Also family photos with the kids?
Yes.
Page 316. Is
Yes.
that you and Rob?
Yes.
And that's part of that same family photo shoot?
Yes.
Page 318. Is that also part of your photo shoot with the family?
Yes.
Where was that taken, if you recall?
That was a place in towards Victorville, in between Silver Lakes and Victorville.
Page 319. That's also part of the photo shoot with you, the kids, and Rob.
Yes.
Page 344. Is that a photograph of you and Rob at the beach?
Yes.
And that was from approximately August of 2012. Is that right?
Yes.
Page 349. That's you and Rob at the beach, approximately the same day,
Yes.
same time. Page 370. Again, that's you. That's Rob and the kids.
Yes.
And that was at the museum down in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Page 379. That's you and Rob also that same day at the museum.
Yes.
Page 389. That's you and Rob out for dinner or meal.
Yes.
That was approximately August of 2012.
Yes.
Showing you last page, page 393. Is that a photo of you, Rob, and your pretty extended family?
Yes.
Okay. And was that when you were all getting together and having a meal together?
Yes.
And are those photos were also during the time period you were involved with Jonathan Hearn? Is that right?
Yes.
Just because of your relationship with Jonathan, did you stop loving your husband?
Never.
Leading.
Oh,
Now, Ms. Limon, would it be accurate to state that do you have difficulty in being able to articulate your thoughts?
Objection, leading.
oh, I'm sorry, what is it?
Leading.
Sustained.
Do you have difficulty in communicating?
Objection, leading the witness.
Oh, that's not you.
If she has difficulty communicating, how would she answer that, Mr. Smith? Overruled.
I'll withdraw.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have difficulty in being able to express yourself?
It depends on what it's about, and but sometimes.
Do you have sometimes difficulty in being able to express your emotions?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
At any time when you were being questioned by Mr. Smith, did you feel that you were unable to communicate what you were thinking or feeling?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You can answer.
Can you repeat that again, Richard?
Sure.
Sorry.
During the time you were being questioned by Mr. Smith, did you feel that you sometimes were having difficulty in being able to express how you were thinking or how you're feeling? events were occurring in 2014?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Because all of this is so hard to even feel or explain or it's just all hard to do.
Let me ask you this: after Rob's death, do you recall what you were feeling at that time, immediately after Rob's death?
It felt surreal. It didn't feel that what was happening was real. Felt like a whirlwind of so many things.
And was there anything that you felt helped you stay anchored in any way during this time? Or anyone?
I felt like God was what I was clinging to, in search of I guess an understanding beyond what I could understand, searching for God's I was just clinging to that, my spiritual feeling at the time, and I clung to Jonathan along with that.
Let me ask you this: before your husband was killed, did you express to Jonathan that you loved him?
Yes, I did.
In the same way that we heard pretty much ad nauseum on those wiretaps, were those expressions that you and he were exchanging during the entire time that you began to feel this emotional and a bond with him?
Yes.
And did you feel that you needed that from Jonathan after Rob was killed?
Objection leading.
Did you need that emotional support
Yes.
after Rob's death?
Yes.
And did Jonathan give you that?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Smith went through a number of text messages that you had sent to Jonathan after Rob's death. Where you professed your love of him. Would that be accurate? Or love for him? For Jonathan?
That I express that?
All those text messages Mr. Smith went through you with.
Oh, yes.
With regards to that you sent to Jonathan, telling him how much you loved him.
Yes.
Okay. Was that how you were feeling at that time?
Yes.
Did you need that love?
I didn't know what I needed at that time, for sure.
Did he make you feel safe?
Yes.
Did he make you feel loved?
Objection
Yes.
leading.
Sustained.
Well, then I'll...
Maybe how did he make you feel?
The judge, you beat me to it, Judge. How did Jonathan make you feel after Rob's death?
He made me feel comforted. He made me feel like he was going to take care of, help take care of me. He made me feel there was so much that was going on then. The loving feelings, yes, he made me feel that way.
Would you have felt that same way if you'd have known that he killed your husband?
Absolutely not.
Did he do anything to try to dissuade you from believing he killed your husband?
He did everything to persuade me.
What did he do?
He he would let me know how investigations work. He would let me know, or he would tell me these things. He would tell me that our affair was something that could be dangerous if found out in an investigation, just because if there's no other suspect found besides.
Did he actually tell you you would be a suspect, or did he say that he would be a suspect?
He said both things. Different times.
Did you believe it?
Yes.
Did he at any time bring any doubts in your mind about Detective Meyer's intentions?
Objection leading.
Based on, based on the prior testimony at this point, I'll overrule that.
Did he make me not believe Detective Meyer?
Did he make you distrust him?
Yes.
How did he go about doing that?
He would just tell me different things that could possibly happen. I believed him, and I started feeling that it wasn't I started feeling that things were that things felt weird with Detective Meyer, and I would tell him what was going on, and he would tell me what he thought about that, and he would make me feel better about it. He had said that he didn't think that there was just different things that he had said.
Let me ask you this. For example, when Detective Meyer told you about the DNA and the cybernetics reference when you came into Bakersfield to talk to him on November 13th, and you were talking to Jonathan on the way home about that. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you go and research anything about this DNA or cybergenetics?
I never researched anything.
Did you know anything about or understand what Detective Meyer was talking about when he was telling you about DNA?
No, I didn't really understand.
And did you turn to Jonathan to try to get information to help you understand?
Yes, I had told Jonathan what was going on. Yes, I did. Probably.
When you first heard about from Detective Meyer, he told you about they might have found some DNA. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you remember telling him or saying to him that was good?
Yes.
Because you thought that might lead to the suspect for your husband's murder. Is that right?
Objection.
I'll rephrase. What did you believe that might lead to?
Well, he thought it was good, so I thought that it would lead to a criminal that had murdered Robert.
Now, there were questions asked about conversation you had with Detective Meyer where he asked you what you had done on the day that Rob was killed. Do you remember those conversations you had with Detective Meyer?
The day that I lost Robert?
Yes.
Yeah.
You remember talking to him when he asked you specific questions shortly after Robert was killed about where you were on the day that Robert was killed? Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. Did you, was that closer in time to Robert's death rather than now 3 years later?
Yes.
Was your memory of those events on that day clearer then than they are now?
Absolutely.
Now, you were asked about the times that Robert found out about Jonathan. You remember that? There was the incident in 2013 when Robert discovered your communications with Jonathan and broke your phone. You remember that?
Yes, I do.
And then there was in 2014 when Robert found the Gmail communications between you and Jonathan. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall whether or not there was ever any type of physical confrontation between Robert and Jonathan?
Objection. Speculation.
Well, are you aware of whether or not there was any physical confrontation between Jonathan and Robert?
No, there was not.
Was that Rob's style to, say, go get into a physical altercation with somebody?
No.
Prior to finding out that Jonathan had murdered your husband, did you believe Jonathan was capable of getting into a physical altercation with your husband?
No.
That's one of the text messages, Exhibit 77.
Smith had shown you earlier, the last text message on there. Did you send that text message to Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay. Did you feel overwhelmed by his know-how?
Yes, I did.
Why?
For many reasons. And I loved him. He was very, it's hard to explain. I don't even know how to explain it. He was very, all the things that, what are you asking me again?
Okay. In this, you mentioned, I feel overwhelmed by your know-how.
Okay.
What did you mean by that statement, if you can recall?
His know-how. I don't know exactly what I meant by his know-how. His intelligence, his all of his gifts that he was a very smart guy. He was very helpful. He was very charming and loving. His know-how, I guess, I don't know exactly.
In some ways, did you feel overwhelmed by him?
Yes, I was overwhelmed.
How so?
He was very, he was a very powerful guy, very controlling, in a way that it's hard to explain. He would take just certain angles. He wasn't physically controlling or mean at all, but how he, I guess, would, to get his way, I guess, he would go about it. So I don't know. It's hard to explain how he was. He was like no one I'd ever met before. That's for sure. Hard to explain.
Know if there'd been, I'll strike that. altogether after that?
No, I started drinking again.
And was that before or after you moved from Silver Lakes?
After,
And did you do something about that?
Objection relevance.
Based on your cross, Mr. Smith?
It's outside the time frame, but I'll submit to the court.
Overruled.
Thank you. Ms. Limon?
yes, I started attending AA meetings, and it helped me maintain sobriety, and it helped me actually find a lot of clarity to a lot of my own personal issues and my own, my personality and my own flaws, and it helped me maintain stable sobriety.
Now, after Robert's death, did you and the kids, your kids, go to grief counseling?
Yes.
For approximately how long?
Oh, gosh, for a long time. The kids had done a group with other children their age that had lost either a parent or a sibling. And then we did family, the three of us, and Robbie did that for a shorter time, and Leanna did that. Leanna hung in there longer. Robbie wasn't having it, and then I did personal grief therapy.
Now, you were asked by Mr. Smith if prior to your arrest you to become paranoid. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And with regards to that, what had caused you to have this paranoia?
Oh, gosh. Robert being well, what caused the paranoia
Yes, ma'am.
was me being in an affair with Jonathan. And our life being exposed in ways that I didn't want. Because at that time the world didn't know.
There's been some reference to you living in Camarillo now, is that right?
Yes.
And your home in Silver Lakes, was it a nice home?
Yes, I loved our home.
in order?
So I'm going to show you a series of photos that are from Defense Exhibit W.
W as in whiskey.
Thank you, Your Honor. We had an opportunity to review those photos,
Yes.
and do each one of those photos accurately depict different views of your home in Silver Lake?
Yes.
This time, Your Honor, I'd ask to move Defense Exhibit W into evidence.
Injection. Mr. Terry, are you going to
Probably a good time to break, Your Honor. We can do it on Monday.
1 second, folks. I did have the opportunity to speak to counsel. We're getting towards the end of the trial, okay? We're staggering some witnesses to get them to come in. But the attorneys and I need to work on something Monday morning, okay? So when you come back Monday, you're coming back at 1:30. 1:30. We're still on course. I am confident of that, all right? So have a good, listen, we're almost done with this thing, so be careful.